Well, it's been described as one of the greatest pop albums ever created, and Madonna fans absolutely love it. At a time in her career when she had already reached incredible peaks and incredible popularity, Madonna delivered Ray of Light. It was the work which finally cemented once and for all her place as a musician.
As a creative artist.
In fact, a genius who deserved to be known as far more than a meager pop star. It was her 7th studio album, released in 1998. It was originally going to be titled Mantra, a reference to the vibe of the album, which was mystical, ethereal, and psychedelic all at once. Inspired by her study of the Kabbalah, the birth of her daughter Lola, her experience of making the movie Evita, and even numerology, Ray of Light is undoubtedly a masterpiece, and we do not use that word lightly. Ray of Light is a pilgrimage, a revelation, and a dance party, all at once. Madonna says she's never felt so free when making music. James, you are a mega Madonna fan. Thanks for joining me. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Ray of Light is just, it's a masterpiece in Madonna's discography.
It is. Why do fans consider it that way, though? Because whenever you talk to a Madonna fan, especially a Madonna fan talking to a non-Madonna fan, if that makes sense, they refer to Ray of Light. They say, oh, you've got to listen to Ray of Light. How could anyone deny Madonna's musical genius after they've listened to Ray of Light? What is it about this album?
Well, I think it's very simple. This album is flawless. From the very first song until the very last, that are just like very, very, very good pop tunes.
I love the way this album, it speeds you up, it slows you down, it takes you this way, it takes you that way, and then the way it ends. I just love it. It's a storybook, isn't it?
It is, and especially because musically, it was designed to be like that. You see, the first 4 tracks, it's the guitar, the electric guitar. You have that in Drowned World. Swim starts with a riff, and then Ray of Light is pure guitar.
She hadn't used electric guitar particularly, maybe if at all, in previous albums, had she? It was a bit of a first for her.
Actually, is the intro of Like a Prayer.
True. Well done.
Yes, come on. But I don't think she had been so rock and roll like in this album, you know?
A little bit of the background of this album. She was down the path a little way with the producer, Babyface, from Bedtime Stories, when she began this project, which obviously didn't have a name at the time. And I've heard some of those tracks. They were very similar to Take a Bow. But Madonna never wanted to repeat herself. She put the kibosh on the whole project. She stopped it, and she swung, and I believe she went down a slightly different road too, which escapes me, before she finally arrived with William Orbit and other producers, and then the sound started to come together.
Yeah, no, I was reading today an article that the Rolling Stone wrote, and talking about Rick Novels, that it's one of he composed the album with her, and he said that he met her in a store, like a department store, and he introduced himself to her and said that he had worked with a lot of people and that he had produced Falling Into You from Celine Dion. And then she said, oh, I love that song. And then they started producing the album. But she had done the same thing after Erotica. She was going she started recording more material with Shep Pettibone. That is the guy who produced Erotica. And then she decided that they were repeating themselves, and he produced Vogue as well. So, and then she moved into another direction. I think Madonna has this commitment with not repeating herself and living in the present.
With some of Madonna's albums, they're appreciated after the fact more often than they were at the time, but this was received really well from the start. Paul Werner of Billboard magazine, he actually wrote this at the time when it was released in 1998. It's easily her most mature and personal work to date. Ray of Light finds Madonna weaving lyrics with the painstaking intimacy of diary entries and wrapping them in hymn-like melodies and instrumentation swathed in lush, melancholy ambience, with forays into classic house, trance, and even guitar pop. Of course, she balances Vassette's serious tone with chewy pop nuggets that allow her to flex her immeasurably widened vocal range to fine effect. And then he finishes the review by describing the album as a deliciously adventurous, ultimately victorious effort from one of pop music's most compelling performers. And by the way, Paul Werner, you have a way with words. That is a beautiful... I mean, first of all, it's such a positive review, but it's just so beautifully crafted.
Yes. This album to me, it's very personal. I mean, it's crazy. I would look for one of those crazy fans, but a lot of things that were very significant in my life had a Madonna soundtrack in a way, like in which she describes things that are exactly happening, like with a precision that is absurd.
They're incredible. What was going on in your life at this time? What does Ray of Light remind you of in your own life?
Me, my first year of college.
Ah.
Yes, it was my first year of college, and then Ray of Light was released, and I was living in a fraternity with 17 other boys, and then we used to play this album by the pool.
Oh, wow. It was big. This was a big album for her. It was really big. Apparently, it set a record for the first week's sales by a female artist, which really surprises me, to be honest. Like, it was hundreds of thousands sold, and at the time, it held a record. It reached number one in Australia, where I am. The European album chart, it was number one. Finland, France, I think it got to number two. Germany, number one. Greece, number one. Ireland, number two. Portugal, there you go, number 6. You must be so disappointed. And number 6 in Portugal. But it was number 2s and number 1s nearly everywhere. And in Japan, number 7. It was a very big. And then the most important charts to me are the end of year charts. Because sometimes people like Madonna, they can go straight to number 1 based on their fan base. Doesn't actually mean anything. But by the end of the year in Australia, it was the 10th strongest selling album. And in the US, the 18th. And in the UK, 7th. It's incredible. It was such a return to form. Can I ask you a question that I've been debating with other fans? Do you believe that the seeds for Ray of Light were planted in Bedtime Stories? Towards the end of Bedtime Stories, I always imagine that was like a to be continued at the end of a movie, because that last little section of Bedtime Stories flows beautifully into the beginning of Ray of Light.
I know. And it's not the first time that she does that. The end of the Immaculate Collection is Just Find My Love.
Yes,
Just Find My Love is the hint to erotica.
Isn't it ever? Yes. Yes.
And Sanctuary and Bedtime Story are the hint for Ray of Light.
Frozen as track number 1. For me, once I heard that, don't get me wrong, it was released as a single. I loved it. I thought it's perfection. However, when I heard the whole album, it made me realize how brave she'd been to choose Frozen as the lead single, because especially, don't forget, it's easy to forget this, we had a long absence of Madonna music, if you discount Evita, that is. We'd had years. So really, for Madonna to come back... and we talk about comebacks probably too loosely, but after a long break like that, you would expect something like Ray of Light would have been just the perfect chart stomper. But Madonna does what Madonna does so well. She always leads with the song that represents that story and that journey the best. So Frozen was the right lead single in my opinion, but I thought it was the braver choice out of Ray of Light and Frozen. I think she was very brave.
It's the kind of song that everybody loves, and that's the point. Frozen is not only a song that her fans would enjoy.
No, it sort of translates across genres, doesn't it? It's a beautiful song.
It is.
The video clip was shot by a very young guy. She plucked some young dude, I think from the UK, or
Chris
Europe.
Cunningham, yeah.
Right, there you go. So, again, staying ahead of the trends and always, still to this day, using and accessing young talent, which is a clever move, but also a very generous move as well. People underestimate the generosity of Madonna in helping new talent along or younger talent along. The video clip's amazing. But let's go back to track number 1, Drowned World Substitute for Love. What do you make of this one as an opening track for Ray of Light?
I mean, it's very autobiographic. I mean, probably a lot of people wants to be close to her to take some advantage. And some other people, and all those things, all the wealth, all the parties, the glamour, that was nothing when she gave birth to her daughter. And when she found out something more meaningful for her spirit as a person.
Apparently Lola was in the studio while she recorded a great deal of this album as well. and she would look to Lola sometimes to see her, this young little toddler's reactions to certain songs she was recording. Ray of Light was Lola's favorite, apparently.
And it's something even more impressive and amazing that because Lola is exactly like her. I mean, Jesus, the resemblances. And obviously, she's not.
Did you see her in the Like a Virgin
equal, but like
wedding
you
dress?
See everything from Madonna in her face.
Yeah. Well, I can also see her dad, though. To be fair, I can see him as well. So she seems like a very smart girl, though. She's at uni now, as I understand it. So it was Drowned. It was released, I believe, too, in certain territories.
Yes, the video was not released in all countries, only in Europe. If I'm not mistaken, was only in Europe. I remember that in Brazil, we saw that on MTV, never on the top 10 or like we used to see it during like late night.
Yes, I love Swim, track 2 on the album. I really love this song. I love the beginning. I love the introduction to it, and then just the whole vibe of the song. It's excellent. It's fun to sing along to. It's a brilliant track, in my opinion. Yeah.
This track is one of the tracks that would justify the title Man track.
Track 3, Ray of Light. This is the one that, some people say could have been the lead single. Not should have, but could have, because this is a corker of a track, isn't it, James? Ray of Light. Brilliant video clip, brilliant song. By the way, whenever you hear an artist is bringing out a quote-unquote personal album, sometimes that's really scary because it's code for boring, if we're going to be honest. This is a brilliant album. This is her opus because of the fact that it's not only personal, it's not only introspective, it's not only spiritual and ethereal, it's also it's still great dance music as well. And Ray of Light it's just brilliance. It's brilliance personified.
Yeah, Ray of Light. I remember that is like the first peak in the album, right?
Yes.
So she starts like guitar lament about fame, then emotion with Swim, and then it comes to like fucking high speed trance.
Pretty much, yes.
And then you go to a rave, and you can be high or not, but you are gonna be moving just like her in that video.
She lost a lot of pounds doing that video clip, I can tell you. Not that she needed to.
And so did I. In my day.
There are some awesome remixes of this too. Like, I mean, not that the original isn't a classic in its own right, but yeah, it's just such a fun song. Like you say, if you don't move to this, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah, you're dead.
Yeah.
Come on.
Absolutely. What did you make of the video?
Well, the video. Well, there was a whole controversy with the video
Really?
because someone accused her because it was Jonas Ackerlund who directed,
Right.
and then they were accusing them of plagiarism.
Oh, is it similar
But
to something
apparently,
else?
Madonna won.
So yeah, this song is really open to interpretation. In some ways, she is the ray of light.
She is the ray of light because she's quicking. She's moving quick because she's doing a lot of things. I think it's about her being still being who she is and still being a good mother.
Mm.
Because usually when women become mothers, they for several reasons, patriarchy or for their own choice, they become mothers and housewives, and that would never happen to Madonna. And so she had to do more stuff and be perfect in each one of them because she's obsessed with perfectionism.
The one thing I've heard about Madonna for years is, and what I've observed myself, if I'm going to be honest, as someone who's read and watched as much as I can, that she is always in a race against time. I believe time is actually a theme in Madonna's personal life. It goes hand in hand with her sleeplessness. As a person, I feel like here, maybe at this point, she was stopping, and in this track, stopping to consider that issue in her life. Where do you stop and sit in a moment rather than plan for the next? There is something to be learned in life about stopping and realizing you're in a moment. I admire people who can live in the moment. I see them. You're probably one of them, James, by the sound of it. People who can stop in the moment. Madonna is not, though. This is something she must keep. It's like a muscle she must keep flexing to remember, in my opinion. Because even recently with the promotion of Madam X, I can still see the lady who's racing against age and time.
We only have this life, as far as we know, and we have to live it well, good, and do whatever we want. Because when it's over, it's over. I think it's understandable.
I tell you something, James, there is no coincidence that you and I are getting into a deep and meaningful conversation about philosophy and life as we're discussing Ray of Light, the album, because that's exactly the intention, isn't it? These are the themes that she wants us to think about. Candy Perfume Girl, can we talk about that? This isn't my favourite, but that's because I've always had some sort of biological objection to the electric guitar or anything thrash-like. Candy Perfume Girl, I get why people like it, but I wouldn't say let's just say it. I object to it. It's not my favorite.
Oh my God. Well, I it's funny. I made a playlist on Spotify of the songs when she turned 60. 60 songs that were not singles and that are amazing from Madonna. I my first choice in on Ray of Light was Candy Perfume.
Wow,
Girl.
So we're chalk and cheese on this?
Yes. Candy Perfume Girl, to me, it's raw, like erotica.
Yes. Ah, okay.
It could be in erotica, that song.
No, I don't
I
hear
like the electric guitar, love it.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I read the person who wrote this track with her. I forgot her name.
Susanna Melvoin, I'm reading it.
Exactly. She wrote this track about her brother who died of overdose.
Really?
Right? Yes.
What is this song about then?
I don't know. It's like, well, that's what's written on Rolling Stone. So I like, why? What the fuck? That's one thing. Who is Candy Perfume Girl is my first question.
Yeah, who is it?
And to me, every time I ask myself, when I started listening to Ray of Light, every time I ask myself, who is Candy Perfume Girl? To me, Candy Perfume Girl, it's a tranny.
Oh, what? Hang on.
Person or a drag queen.
You realize, first of all,
correct,
James, there's so much to say. First of all, in Australia, we don't use the word tranny anymore. It's offensive.
I know, I remember that.
Second of all, how do you get that interpretation? Why did you come to that conclusion? Explain yourself, dear man.
It's a drag queen or a prostitute, because it seems to me that is someone. Every time I listen to the song, I see someone who apparently has a normal life during the day getting ready. a transgender person, no, or a prostitute, or a drag queen, and then she's dressing up, and then
Wow.
she finishes with the candy perfume
Right.
that she wears.
Well,
And like these people, they use a lot of perfume,
they do.
you know.
I can.
Yeah, and I see
Your
her,
visual
and then in the end, she says,
is clear.
"Candy perfume, girl,
Yes, girl,
girl,
boy,
boy, girl." See, and in the
wow.
beginning, it's just, the first verses, uh, "Young velvet porcelain boy, devour me when you're with me." I see like a young boy hiring a prostitute, and like
I think this is a
that's
stretch, but
the image that comes to me.
okay. Well, look, let's put it to the people listening. What do you think? Is Candy Perfume Girl possibly about a transsexual or about a prostitute?
Yes.
I can't say it's wrong because I can't offer something. I can't offer a different view. But I've never thought of it like that. But you have blown my mind, James, and that is a good thing. I'll never listen to it the same way again.
That could be a video.
Yeah, it's a very graphic picture you've painted, put it that way. Track 5 is Skin. I just love this song. Love this song. I don't know what else to say about it. Is this a Patrick Leonard track as well?
Yeah, it's Patrick Leonard.
Oh, okay, there you go.
And it's produced by Madonna, William Orbit, and Marius DeVries. 6 minutes of pure heaven. That's what this song is, because it's so. I mean, it's like a trip. This is like a drug that you get high while you're listening, and when it finishes, you go back to normal.
Okay. Well, Nothing Really Matters was a big single from this album too, but as a track, Nothing Really Matters it's just lovely. The beautiful calm beginning, and then it's built into a heavenly place, really, into a dance track.
Well, Nothing Really Matters is all about maternity, and about like stopping being selfish. And like when you have another person who depends on you, that track is about Lola. To me, it's pretty clear. And Nothing Really Matters, the video, it's about this inspiring memories of a geisha. She was reading that book, and she is playing Hatsumomo, one of the characters.
Yes.
And but I think it's very Patrick Leonard. Nothing Really Matters, but I think I think it's the most pop of the songs of this album, but I think it still fits into the album very well.
Sky Fits Heaven. Let's talk about this. Another great track. I feel like I'm being really repetitive here, but like you said at the beginning of the podcast, there is no weak link in the chain here. This is all they're gems and pop genius the whole way through. Sky Fits Heaven is... the production stands out for me on this track. It's a thumping production. All of it is, though. Like, I feel like when you pay a compliment here, you're taking away from the others, but I just love the production of Sky Fits Heaven.
Yes. When the album was released, I remember that Sky Fits Heaven was my favorite by far. Because what I like about this song is that those transitions with the drums. Wow, my God, that is so good. I mean, it's if you play that on a party,
it's like so funny that you find that part like your favorite part too, because that's a bit I love too. I just love it. It's almost like Scooby Doo in the middle.
Yes, right.
It's so good. It's so good. Well, and I thought I was the only sad person who just loves that. I always, I've got kids, and when they're in the car, when it comes up to that point in the song, I go, shh, 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 listen. It's like, okay, you can talk again now.
Look, I used to smoke a joint and drive. Listening to that song.
Okay, you did
in Brazil. So,
it's okay
to me, and I mean, like, well, I need to smoke a joint and drive listening to the song, because the song it speaks like traveling down this road, watching the signs as I go.
Oh,
I
wow.
think I'll follow the sun. And I was like, wow, I'm in a video, because that's what I like about Madonna. Why I made my paper, I mean, my final work at graduation in journalism. I wrote an analysis, a semiotic semiotics analysis.
Yes.
Sorry, semiotics is the science that studies the signs and the symbols,
Mm-hmm.
and Madonna, she is a genius of turning music into video. And so driving on the road, listening to Sky Fits Heaven was like, oh, a liberating experience that only music can provide you. But I mean, I wouldn't drive too fast.
No. Oh,
Okay.
well, I'm glad you let yourself off the hook at the end of that story there, James. Now,
Yes.
I've got to say, I'm reading this, so I'm not going to say this is coming from my own knowledge box in my head. It's not. I'm just reading here that it says Skyfit's start again. Skyfit's Heaven has lyrical interpretations from British poet Max Blagg's 1992 poem What Fits, and it's uncredited in the album's official liner notes. Blagg's role in the song was the subject of several publications questioning Madonna's inspiration behind the track. There you go. I had never heard that story, that apparently draws some inspiration from a poem.
Well, it's very possible, because Madonna reads a lot, and she loves poetry,
And writes
like
poetry a
James
lot.
Baldwin is a theme in her Madame X tour now.
Mm.
I saw it 4 times.
Track 8. This is an interesting song because, for a number of reasons. It is like a mantra or a prayer almost. And I also heard she recorded it and then had to re-record it because she was getting the subtleties of the language not quite right. And she's, as you've described many times today, a perfectionist. So she's went back and re-recorded it after getting professional instruction from like a world-class language expert or whatever it was. I also have to say, on a personal note, this song is probably loathed by my children because they'll recognize why I'm doing this. Oh Shanti, oh Shanti, 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 oh. And James, what that means is usually when I'm doing that, not usually, always when I'm doing that, they are fast asleep and it's time to get up for school. So there's a little bit of a little household routine that happens here.
Oh, that's interesting. Look, Shanti, it was the song that me and my friend Flavio, that I met in the student's house. We were the 2 gay guys only in the house as well, and we used to love singing the song. Even not knowing we were singing.
What are we singing, by the way? Do you have any idea? I don't know what it... Oh, God, I hope I haven't been swearing at the kids for...
Here, I worship the Guru's lotus feet, awakening the happiness of the self revealed, beyond comparison, working like the jungle physician to pacify loss of consciousness from the poison of existence, in the form of a man up to the shoulders, holding a conch, discuss, and sword. 1,000-headed white. I bow respectfully, peace. That's what it means.
Okay.
It's a mantra in Sanskrit.
We'll skip over track 9. We've spoken about Frozen as the lead single. It is track 9 on the album, which is an interesting placement too. Again, Madonna is so bold. These are small things probably to most people, but it's a big deal to take your lead single and make it track 9 so that the story isn't hurt, the story she's trying to tell throughout the album. The Power of Goodbye, though, is track 10. This is a sister of Frozen, do you think? Or is it, for me, in my head, it's related to Frozen somehow?
Well, the strings arrangement was recorded at the same day. So yes, they are.
See, oh,
yeah,
my finely tuned ear.
But the Power of Goodbye it's one of the most heartbroken relationship. Oh my God, how could I say that? End of the affair songs it describes how you feel when you are breaking up with someone.
Yeah, you describe it as sad. I
Really
describe it
good.
as hopeful.
Because the things are not working anymore, as she describes here. Your heart is not open, so I must go. The spell has been broken. I loved you so. You are all the time balancing. It's not good. It's not good, but your love is still there. How do you get rid of it?
I'm interested to know what you think about the video for this song, because apparently there's a homage in it, or there's lots of references, apparently, that I'm probably missing most of, but I understand that there's a homage to Joan Crawford from her film Humoresque. There's a reference in there, or a homage to that. What do you make of this video clip? Apparently it's one you've got to watch to catch it all, like all the references.
What I pick from this video is that love is like a chess match. Because she's playing chess with this very, 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 very handsome guy. That's why it's so difficult to say goodbye to a hot guy like that, And she's like, she's like, it's always like that. Relationships. It's a game.
Look,
yeah, and in the end of the match, like when she's losing, she just like throw all the pieces away.
Do you know she used to do that as a child, apparently, with Monopoly?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, quite a few of her siblings have told that story. If Madonna was losing at Monopoly...
she didn't know how to lose.
Well, she did, actually. She'd pick up the board and throw it across the room. She knew exactly how to lose. She wouldn't accept it. I'm interested to pause at this point and actually have a discussion about Madonna's vocals through this album. Because for me, they were, without even knowing the story of Evita back then, I knew about Evita, but I didn't know stops on the recording, lots of going back to vocal coaches and coming back and having to record it in a different way on her own terms as opposed to the way that they would usually record a soundtrack. There was a whole story there, which relates to the vocal arrangements and to the vocal stylings on Ray of Light. Operatic was the word I had at the time. Probably now with a bit more education, it's probably not quite operatic, but basically I noticed this expanded vocal range. She sounds beautiful on this album and brave. In terms of her vocals, I'm talking brave vocals. She goes for it. To Have and Not to Hold is another fantastic song. It's very Biblistic almost. It's like a prayer to me. To Have and Not to Hold. I love this song, and it's great to sing to too. It's a precious little track.
Yes, To Have and Not to Hold takes a sample from a Brazilian singer, Bebel Gilberto. Bebel
Really?
Gilberto is the daughter of João Gilberto, the founder of Bossa Nova.
Oh,
and the producer Rick Novell said that they wrote To Have and Not to Hold listening to a Bossa Nova track.
wow.
So it's known. And
you're
it's
right.
about something like this song is about relationships. It's about power. It's about position. It's about everything that we fight for, and then we reach it. But after that, to hold that, it's another story.
Little Star, her tribute and her ode to Lola. Beautiful track. She sang this on Oprah along with Ray of Light, I believe, and beautiful version. She sung it so beautifully too, and it comes right from the soul, this.
It's a beautiful bedtime story, right?
It's her most sentimental moment.
A child.
Yeah.
Yes, she's like it's like a song, but it can be also a bedtime story for her own daughter. I think it's cute. Wow. If I was Lola, I mean, I would probably love this song because it's something very beautiful that a parent can write and compose and sing for a son and a daughter. I mean, it's a beautiful song.
It's a beautiful song. I also forgot to say, just to go back, and I don't usually do this, but Skin, the track Skin, I believe that well, I don't believe, I've been told reliably that it didn't used to be called Skin as the name of the track. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Now the next question is, well, what was it going to be called? The answer is, I actually don't know. But it was, apparently it was originally titled something else. Little Star, beautiful, beautiful track. And then we need to spend some time talking about Mer Girl.
Well, it's her, but it's about being a mother, becoming a mother, paying tribute to her own mother, remembering the mother she didn't have. That is a theme in Madonna. Okay. And remember when I told you that this album was very personal to me? It was not only because it was my first year in college. In 1997, by the end of 1997, my mother died. My mother, she committed suicide. I went through the hell after that, and I was like I still decided. I mean, I took like Madonna as an example. I decided to be strong and keep my studies until I enter college, and I could because in Brazil you have to make a national exam, a national test to go into a public university, and I made it. And then I had to move to another city because my university was in another city that I grew up, which was something that I was willing to do because I couldn't stand staying there because everything reminded me of her. And I finished a relationship when I moved. Like her, I ran from my house that could not contain me, from a man that I could not keep, and from my mother who haunted me even though she was gone.
Wow, it was like it was written for you, James.
It was. It's not only being about the mother that she lost, the mother she became, but her getting in touch with the essence of Mother Nature. Because being a mother is actually giving life to things. And who better gives life than Mother Nature?
I see this song as such a visual moment too. I almost feel like I've seen the video clip because in my head I've always had the same imagery running around in my head, the same colouring as Frozen and The Power of Goodbye. And but I see symmetry, like maybe it's a little bit literal from the lyrics, but and I'm not going to take people through a scene by scene of what's in my head, but I have the video clip in my head. It's incredibly visual, this song.
Yeah, I kind of have. Yes, it's very visual. It's very descriptive. It's like the melody is describing the lyrics. I kind of listen the rain falling. I kind of smell the wet land, the ground after the rain.
Yeah.
I can feel ants walking on my skin. It's very sensorial, I think. But I mean, maybe it's just me getting carried away again.
No, it's you being moved by a work of art, which is Ray of Light. And what a way to conclude the album. I do personally believe this is the most beautiful rounding of an album, of all of her albums, still to this day, because when you listen to that last minute of the album, it's just, it leaves you sitting there like you've just finished a really good film that's had quite a profound effect on you. She deliberately placed Ray of Light as track 3 because of numerology. She deliberately wanted the original work of Ray of Light to be 13 tracks because of the number 13. I agree. I know, I'm aware that there is a 14-track version of this album, but as its original piece of work, it's a 13-track album very deliberately.
I think she mixes a lot of beliefs.
Yes.
During her career.
So successfully.
Because she's Catholic.
I love the Catholic imagery. I love that so much.
I like that too, though I am not Catholic.
Now, James, we have to talk about the look of this album before we wrap up. What about the marketing campaign, the look, the imagery, the cover of the album, the colouring of the era, and I say that deliberately because most of her eras have a certain like colour scheme, I suppose. Certainly it was a surprise rather than a shock to the greater public when she came out with a very soft image, a softened image, even compared to Bedtime Stories. She, had the beautiful draping hair and the mystical sort of jewelry.
She came as something fresh.
Yes,
freshness. That's what I take.
Stripped back makeup. Very much a glowing new mother. What do you think? What a surprise!
Yes, exactly. A glowing new mama and fresh and elemental. Water, rain, the earth.
She was happy. She was relaxed. And Madonna actually, in my opinion, she's content quite often professionally, but she's not a particularly happy person in my opinion. That raises a greater debate about happiness. Should we be striving for happiness or contentedness? That's a whole other discussion. But I believe she, in this era, was genuinely happy, so satisfied.
She was genuinely happy. But I agree with you, what you said about her. Mm-hmm.
I'm curious to know what you think of the cover of this album. We can't have a Ray of Light podcast without talking about the cover.
I think it's beautiful.
Amazing.
Let me see it. Let me take my records here.
Are you looking at a vinyl?
The vinyl, yes.
Oh, nice big photo.
I have 8 vinyls. And each one of them is one color. So the Ray of Light, it's this color as well. The LP.
Okay.
I like because she's wearing it seems to be silk, right?
Looks
like it's actually plastic.
Yes, I would have thought it was more that. Yeah.
Yes, on the back. Yeah, it's plastic.
It's like a raincoat.
So it's very but it's also very ravish.
Oh, very fashionable. Absolutely.
Yes, it's like very electronic music party.
But the hair and everything, it's a beautiful photo. And then I like the series that go along with this photo because you can see the one where she's laughing, which could be the back cover. But yeah, it's a beautiful series of photos. Apparently, she tried to end this photo shoot short, and had a bit of a scuffle, a verbal scuffle with the photographer, with her telling the photographer, "I'll tell you, I'm hiring you, and I'll tell you when it's over." And he had to say, "It's not over. I'm the photographer." And so she stuck around for a bit longer. And apparently the image that's on the front cover is one that was captured after this little tiny tiff.
Oh, well, so it's very authentic.
Well, often makes me reconsider what she's the look in her eyes when I think about that. But look, because she's got a little bit of a, a little bit pissed off. But if you choose to look at it that way, I like the fact that the hair is not incredibly perfect either. Because there's a few strays there at the top of the album. It's just a wonderful cover, and the colouring is beautiful. The font, the symbol of the M reminds me a little bit of the Blonde Ambition tour.
That engraving on the cover of the sex book as well.
Aha, yes, it does too.
Which to me is a vagina.
Of course it is, James.
Well, it is because Madonna. Come on, Madonna is pure pussy power. Blonde Ambition is all about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is. She fucks the guys on stage at the end of the opening act. I mean, she bangs them like literally. She is like assuming that's what I was telling you. She subverts all those symbols of what is masculinity, and she takes to her.
James, why should people listen to Ray of Light?
Why should people listen to Ray of Light? If after they heard all this podcast, they don't want to listen to it, they are very boring people.
Maybe they just clicked to the very end and they're just hearing this one question.
Yes. No, I mean, this is one of the best albums ever made on pop music, period.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. and is also a portrait of the time where it was released in terms of music, but it's still a classic because 20 years later, these songs still sound fresh, which is different from the whole Madonna 80s era. You listen to the first, to Like a Virgin, to True Blue, and even to Like a Prayer, and this is an 80s album.
Yes.
Ray of Light is not a 90s album.
It transcends time.
Exactly. Like Erotica.
Couldn't agree with you more, James. Hey, James, I hope you've had fun for your first podcast.
Well, I hope you had fun, and please.
Is there a siren in the background there, James? I can hear a siren. Maybe they just heard your confession that you smoke joints and drive at the same time.
No.
Are they coming after you?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm not ashamed. I mean, here in New Jersey, where I live, is it's legal. So,
it's not legal.
I don't care.
It is not legal anywhere.
But I don't do that here in the United States.
Oh, of course you don't.
Things are more,
This is the sound of a man backpedaling.
Backpedaling. Yes. No. But I always drove safe. I don't like to. I just wanted to enjoy the song. But come on. People knew how many people drive stoned.
Well, that's a really good way to end this podcast. Thank you, James, for joining me. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, you cut all these things, okay, if you want to cut,
you want me to cut the best parts? As if that's going to happen. Never.
Yeah.
James, you have a good night or evening or whatever it is in New York.
Yes, it's good evening here. Well, thank you very much for the opportunity.